Okay, so on number 3 here, we're factoring out, it says factor the GCF out of the polynomial. So what that means, so first off, they want us to look at these 3 terms and find out what divides into all of them. Now, watch this. This would be a good exercise. You might look at that and go, well, 2 does. You can divide that by 2, divide that by 2, divide that by 2. And that's, of course, true. 8, 12, and 20 are all divisible by 2, right? 2 goes in all of them. But there's another number, a bigger number. 2 is not the greatest number, is it? What's the greatest number that they're all divisible by? 4, huh? 4. Do you see that? And so this is where it becomes important. That's what the G in the GCF stands for. Greatest common, greatest common factor. So we have to find the greatest number, not just in there. Also, they're all divisible by 1, right? Every number is divisible by 1. So really, we have to find the greatest number that they're all divisible by. And so that's, in this case, it's going to be 4 for mine. 4 is the biggest. So there's no number bigger than 4. So if you divide them all by 4, what do you get? You get 2, you get 3, and you get 5. So that means I'm going to put 4 in the front of the parenthesis, right? We're looking for what goes in the front, and we're going to have a big old parenthesis. We're going to have 3 things inside with plus signs between. Now, not just 4. 4 is the number part of the GCF, of the greatest common factor. Now, what about the letter part? What we have x's. What power on x should we put in the front? Remember, it's always the lowest. So we just grab this lowest one. Lowest x power, right? Because that's the greatest amount they share in common. They all have x squared or more. They don't all have x to the 3rd power or more, do they? The greatest amount they share in common is the lowest power. They all have x squared or more. So there we go. So we put that in the front. That's the GCF now that's in the front. 4x squared. That's the greatest number, 4 that divides into all of them. And the greatest amount of x's they all share in common, which is also the lowest power. Now, we got to figure out what goes on the inside. How do we do that? Well, whatever works, huh? You just think multiplication backwards. Just go, okay, 4x squared times what will go back to become 8x to the 5th. Well, you know the number right up here, it's going to be the 2. That's why we did the divider. So 4 times 2 is 8. And now what power on x do we need? Remember how we just finished a section on multiplication. Remember how multiplication works? Out front numbers multiply, powers add. Let me write that. Out front numbers multiply, powers add. Remember? So x2 and x3 will add to go back to be x to the 5th. You see that? Everybody see that? 4 times 2 is 8, and x2 plus x3 will go back to be x to the 5th. So that's good so far, right? Out front numbers multiply, powers add. Next one, 4x squared. Here, I'll change the color there. 4x squared times what will go back to become 12x to the 3rd. Well, we've already got the number up here, 3. You know that. 4 times 3 is 12. And then what power do I need? Just regular x. Now, a regular x means x to the 1st, doesn't it? If you don't put any power on there, it's an invisible 1 because there's 1x. And the powers will add. 2 and 1 will add to go back to 3. Okay, one more. How about the last one? 4x squared times what will go back to become 20x squared? Well, we need the 5, and that's all. No x's at all. Common mistake here is people go, I need an x. No. If you put an x, and they go, well, that's just nothing on the x. No, that would mean x to the 1. And that would 2 and 1 would add to be 3, and that's too much. We only need to go back to x squared, right? So we don't want any x at all there, do we? We just want a plain 5. 4x squared times plain 5 will go back to be 20x squared. And so there's our answer. We got it. You can check by multiplying. If you were to distribute this, it would go back to be the original. We factored it, which means we unmultiplied it. We found out what it was before it was multiplied like that. So there we go.